Welcome to Cove, Wellbeing and the My Trauma, Your Trauma series with me, Owen Morgan. I want to share my trauma journey and that of others. We will also look at the world of trauma healing, support and research, including guests who specialise in helping those overcome their trauma. My Trauma, Your Trauma is here to explore human experience. Welcome to Trauma Chat, where we invite on guests to talk all things trauma. Please watch and listen with care. Some of this content may be triggering or may make you feel uncomfortable. So press that stop button and take a break. Always put yourself first. I'm a mental health advocate and a massage therapist, and I've interviewed hundreds of wellness experts. I've spent my time with people who have stories of overcoming their wellness struggles. I myself have suffered with childhood abuse from childminders, severe school bullying, a deep depression in my 20s, and blackout anxiety, plus a life-threatening illness in my early 30s. So I've been around the block a few times. I want to give a voice to those who can inspire others to improved wellness. So I'm super duper excited today because I've got yet another awesome podcast host who we're going to collaborate with. So on today's show, I welcome on Jeremy Greene, who is a mental conditioning coach, world traveler, and podcast host on the Social Ninjas podcast. What a cool name that is, which is hosted by himself and a friend, Kyle. It is a mental health podcast, and both of them are ex-social anxiety sufferers. Jeremy is currently on a mission with his hashtag Join the Team movement. How are we today, Jeremy? How you doing?
Good. Join Team Human.
Yeah, what did I say? Is that what I said?
Join the team. I don't know. It's fine.
Join. I put a "the" in it for some reason. Well, that still works. No. Join Team Human. And speaking of which, tell us all about that, mate, before we talk about anything else.
Well, Join Team Human is kind of one of those things I've been marinating for many years now, and I'm feeling all the commitment, pressure to really put it together, and I have been procrastinating it because there's still those things that are out of my comfort zone, and it's just the idea, like I'm sure we're gonna get into it, but it just stems from my own experience of just feeling so isolated from everyone else in the world, just because I was also bullied really, really badly growing up, and then my oldest brother, who's autistic, or his young adult living with autism. It's like I'm always curious with the vernacular, like what is the correct way of saying it. But he's beat me up, so I kind of took that on. I just basically, to sum it all up, I just felt disconnected, and I felt like no one was on my team, and I had no worth, and I just felt so isolated. So Join Team Human, I was like super motivated. It's one of those passion projects I've been kind of going back and forth with where I want to create a tribe idea, clothing line, just organization, tribe of just human beings being different puzzle pieces and being on the same team and just embracing humanity. And it's like, if you are part of Join Team Human, you believe in humanity and you're celebrating differences, but most importantly, celebrating yourself as a piece to the larger puzzle.
Wow, man, that sounds awesome. Right up my street. And, you know, it's how important is it right now, too? Obviously, with everything that's happening in the world with Black Lives Matter and everything else. I mean, it's probably needed any more, you know, even more than ever, I'd say.
That's what most people are telling me. I asked a few people because I sold shirts at one point. I was super excited. I was planning some events and bringing people together. And I've had people reach out. What happened to that Join Team Human idea, Jeremy? I keep procrastinating it. I'm like, stop! No, I have more pressure now. But deep down, I really want to, I want to put it together and get it growing even more.
Sometimes you just got to go for it and hope, haven't you? You know, take that leap. And it's such an amazing idea. So I'll definitely be supporting you with that in whatever way you need me to. That's for sure. So before we get going, we're going to talk a lot more about your story, what you've been through, especially your school life. You know, I had a tough time. I don't think it was as tough as yours, but I kind of slightly on some level understand. So it'd be great for us to talk this through. But before we do that, do you just want to let everybody know at home a little bit more about you outside of the intro I gave you, and about the Social Ninjas podcast too. That's a bit more about that.
Okay, so yeah, my my Instagram is Jeremy Talks to Strangers, and the point of that was initially talking about like those things, doing something and then evolving in a totally different way you didn't expect. I started Jeremy Talks to Strangers as a means to practice accountability to make videos with strangers to practice to do a gig interviewing celebrities on the red carpet in Hollywood. I got like a gig and then I was challenged to do it. And then I realized how, so every day I would go up to the stranger and I would say, hey, I need to make a video every day with a stranger. Is it okay if you're that stranger? And almost every time they were open to doing it, and it was so uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable. And then I got better at it, and like I got more comfortable doing it. And it's something I'm going to talk about a lot later on, but it was just doing the reps and being okay, like not being good at it at first, and just look at it as reps, and it's like effort over results. Just get the reps in, not the results. Who cares about the results? As long as you're doing the reps, you're doing it right. So every day I talk to a different person, and I realize just how amazing people are, and how people isolate themselves. And I even like saw my own judgments in the mix. Like I've had it where I would judge someone based off of their appearance, just like not be friendly or whatever it is, and then I would talk to them, and my judgment was completely wrong. So going back to your question, the the Social Ninjas podcast, I was on Instagram on my Jeremy Talks to Strangers Instagram, and this guy had also this kind of similar story as me, just social anxiety. I had really bad social anxiety growing up from being bullied, etc. And I reached out to this other guy who has social anxiety, and we decided to challenge ourselves because, as I'm saying, like one of the things that got me over my social anxiety was just doing social challenges, positive social challenges that were outside my comfort zone. And it started out as an Instagram live with this guy. And I was so nervous to do this Instagram live. And we did it, and I felt so good. We talked about like how to build confidence. We've done a lot of topics, but I was just like the first one, I believe. And I was like, it wasn't perfect. Like it was not that great in my opinion. It was like, a lot of errors. It was not perfect, but we did it. So it's like just embracing and celebrating the rep that we did, and that was to do their live. Like the win was doing the live, not how well it went. So we did the live. We're like, oh, that's kind of exciting. How could we go bigger? So I think we did like another live or something, and then we decided to be random and do an Instagram to do a podcast together, and we would just bring up different topics every single week, like how to deal with conflict, how to deal with public speaking, or how to do public speaking better, and just all these confidence, all these beautiful topics. And then it was really fun, and we were just kind of doing it for fun as like a social challenge. We weren't doing it for any results, just kind of challenging ourselves over and over. And then I guess people started listening and saying how much value they got, and then we decided. I think I was in Taiwan at the time. I was like, let's have a guest. Let's get a guest on there. And then that, like, it was incredible. It was perfect. I'm more like the extrovert. He's more the introvert. So we work really, really well together. And we've had, especially when the pandemic started, we kind of just went all out. We've recorded as many as 3 episodes in a day. We have had well over 15 TEDx speakers on our podcast, and that's another thing I'm sure I'm going to talk about. But it's blown up. I've gone a lot better. I used to feel very uncomfortable hearing myself. I still do this to some extent, definitely, but it's just crazy. Just doing the reps and not really concentrating on how good I am. Just concentrating on the reps. I realized that I've gotten better in the podcast. I remember when I first started, right when I hit record, my personality would just like run away because I don't want it to be so good. And I just noticed the record button doesn't really bother me as much as it used to. I noticed that I'm just more present with each guest, and just holding that space in a beautiful way, and having them share their stories to bring, hopefully. Well, I've actually getting messages nowadays of like, oh, I listened to your podcast and it really helped me. And like my old stories comes up, like imposter syndrome of like, oh no, all that stuff. But it's just all story.
Wow, it's so amazing. I love that reps kind of, I guess you call it analogy. It's such a good way to look at it, because there's so much pressure, isn't there, to get places these days on all levels. So I love that idea of the rep stuff. And like you said, you can sometimes look back, can't you, at previous ones, see how far you've come, but you can do that later. You don't need to worry about your results right now. I go back and listen to my first stuff and go, God, I had no intonation in my voice and I couldn't narrate a video to save my life. So I was like, oh, I've definitely got better. So that's cool. But it's like you said, it's feeling It's like feeling relaxed, isn't it? When you can fully relax into it, once you get into it enough, you can just totally be yourself and not worry about, how you're seen or whatever, or judged. It takes time though, man. It takes time. And it sounds like you guys have done it.
Does. It does. And it's funny when someone will reach out to me like, I listened to your first episode and I loved it. And I'm like thinking, no, don't listen to a more recent one.
Yeah, when I think I'm searching someone on Instagram, like, hey, do you want to come on my show? I'm like, right, I go through which episode I will actually send them though. No, not that one, not that one. And then I just send the same one every time, the one I thought I was best on. Why not? But yeah, so I totally get some of your struggles with this too, because it does take a bit of time. So how long is it? How long has it been going for then? It sounds like it's not been going that long, in theory.
Started, I'm guessing either December or January.
Wow, it's even more impressive, man. That's like, yeah, but 6 months or so, 7 months. Amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I just, my whole mentality, or our mentality was not concentrating on how many people listen, not concentrating on things we don't have control over, but concentrating on learning, and then authentically connecting with the people who are on the podcast. And that's it. And everything else will take care of itself, as our mentality. So whenever like someone's on, they're an expert. I ask questions. We were talking about earlier when it wasn't recording. I've had it where I'm having like the worst day of my life, and then, like someone who has their PhD will come on, and I'll say, "What if someone's going through this?" And it'll be what I'm going through, and they'll do like a session for me, and then if people get value, they get value. So.
But actually, hearing people having light bulb moments, or hearing people, realizing something about themselves, is actually quite powerful to hear. So, it's relatable, and you guys are definitely relatable. That's why when I've listened to some of the shows, I love your chemistry's good. It's relatable. You're real, authentic, and that's all you can ask for, really, of a good podcast. Because otherwise, it's stilted and very Q&A like, and that's never so nice to listen to, is it? So it needs to flow. Speaking of which. Speaking of which, we've got lots of juicy questions for us to get through today. So I always ask everybody the same question on every single show just to get a real insight into them. So for you, Jeremy, what is your definition of trauma? What in your words is trauma?
Trauma for me is, it's an incident, it's an event that caused you to I love it. I didn't read these. I didn't listen. I didn't read the questions in advance because I like to be more organic. But it's something that shifted, like your perspective on the world. And it can be something negative, like a negative experience, and then it created a trigger point, or a point in you that causes triggers whenever you hear anything similar, and also stories that aren't accurate today, or not helping you today a lot of the times.
That's a really good way to think about it, especially with the trigger side. At any moment we might feel fine, then boom, trigger, and that trauma comes up for us. So yeah, no, you're spot on. No, everybody has their own definition. It's all pretty much the same thing, just with different language. So even though you didn't prep that answer, you nailed it, mate. So it's all good.
Good. I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh my god, could have said it better next time. I let it.
Yeah, well, it's not meant to be some big scientific, lecture response. It's meant just to be come from your heart, and that's what came out, and that's amazing. So we're going to dive straight in, because I haven't properly talked to somebody about this before, and I have similar experiences. So let's jump straight into your school life, and what happened to you, and we will cover how that affected your adulthood in the next question. So we're just going to dive in. For anybody listening, if they find this triggering, please hit the stop button and come back. But yeah, let's dive in, man. Share what you've been through.
Okay. Yeah. When I was younger, I had a lot of energy. I was really running around the playground, not really wanting to focus on classroom. And it's funny looking back at this. I read a lot of books on stuff on it, and they say that a lot of the times children, or most of the time, children are just creative geniuses. And then because of like schooling and the system that we're in, it kind of destroys our creative geniuses and turns us into just it's an outdated system, educational system. I can go on and on about it turns us into just factory workers where you have no creative genius anymore. You're just like a really good worker. And I just thought of this recently, and I had a lot of energy, and I was like creative, and I just could not get I don't know, there's some stubbornness within me. I couldn't get into just being a factory worker mentality or something. And had a lot of energy. I got kicked out of kindergarten for beating kids up because I just had too much energy. They couldn't control me, so they put me in pre-K because I was just, yeah, I was a wild child. And then as I got older, I made a really close friend, like a best friend. And as I said, like my oldest brother is living with autism. He beat me up pretty badly, just not because of me, but just because the world is very challenging for him. And I talked about this a lot, but like displacement. He was displaced, taking it out on me. And then I took on that message of I deserve to be a punching bag. That's just like my normal. Like if I'm not being, if I'm not a punching bag, I'm just something's off. I only realized this later on in life, actually within the last few months, and I took that message on. And in middle school, I was in seventh grade, and I got in an argument with my really close friend. And instead of hashing it out, getting along again, he decided to use this as an opportunity to get an entire, in my mind, and then the entire grade against me. So he'd spread rumors about me, he'd spread rumors about my family, and if anyone bullied me, they would tell each other, and then they would celebrate it. Like, dude, I did this to Jeremy today. Really nice. And they would do that, and it was awful. Like I had it where these two guys, it's something called a stunner, and that's where they grab you by the back of the neck and pull you down. I once had it where these two guys at the same time grabbed me by the back of the neck and pulled me to the concrete, and I hit my head on the floor really hard. And I went into my English class and I was crying just really intensely. And of course, my crush was in that class. I'm just bawling, and my head is like a welt on the head. I once had like a half empty bottle of Gatorade open, just thrown at my head from the second story. And yeah, it was I had there, and then the main bully and these two other guys were like calling the three-headed monster. They would just do whatever they can to make my life as terrible as possible. And my mom had to step in and like get together with their parents, and they say, hey, what they're doing to my child, what you're doing to my child, it's not okay. And then of course, like my main bully, his mom was in denial, oh, not my son. And then he obviously was going through something, which at the time I wasn't aware of that. I'm just like, I took on the story of, I am a piece of shit, I deserve, I bring no value to the world, and I hate myself so much. And I don't like life. I was pretty depressed. And then I ended up coping by hanging out with the grade level underneath me. So when I was in seventh grade, I hung out with the sixth graders, and it was off. It was great because I did have some sort of support, but these kids have known each other for years. So it was another layer of felt like an outsider. Like they've known each other for years and have this crazy bond, and I'm like this seventh grader who they just met, and I didn't have that same level of connection that they had. So that was also hard. And then it kind of went up into high school, where I was just wandering, kind of trying to like find my group of friends. And it's not until later on I realized that I was having trouble, finding my group of friends because I didn't know myself and I didn't love myself. So it's one of those cliche things where I needed to realize and find out how to love myself first before I found that group.
Wow, thank you so much. And it sounds like there was no sense of safety there for you for a very long time. Um, and an element of feeling safe is going to be having a self sense of awareness. What you like, what you don't like, identity, feeling like you're worthy. I guess you probably didn't, if you thought you were worthy or not worthy, but were expecting a beating, for example, how can you think of yourself as worthy of having a solid friendship group? I guess you must have had a bit of conflict there between wanting friends, but not thinking you're worthy of any. Would that be the case?
Oh, completely. Definitely. And on top of that, I would add that if I loved myself fully and completely in that moment, and people try to bully me, I'm like, hey, what you're doing is not okay. And if you're going to try to talk to me that way or do anything, I will get you in so much trouble. It's ridiculous. And if I just kept on doing that mentality, because if then it would have helped a lot. Like a lot of times they would do it. I'm like, oh, I just, I didn't even like stick up for myself, if I'm being honest.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you need that level of boundary. You need to have a boundary of self-respect to say that's, but it's so hard when you're a kid to, if no one teaches you that, no one teaches you about the importance of boundaries and when to say no. it's not an easy thing to do, which is why, I'm making a career move into schools, because I'm hearing stories like this and I want to make a difference. So that's I'm going to change careers and go and do that. So hopefully if there's another Jeremy, here now, hopefully we can stop this happening. But it's just so difficult. I mean, schools are, a nightmare at the best of times without all of this as well. So did this happen essentially, or did you feel like an outcast all the way up to graduation then, or did it improve at any point for you?
From like seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, I was kind of I felt like an outsider in my head. Apparently, talking to people years later, I was likable, like people liked me, but in my head, I wasn't. Like, there's a perfect dynamic of internal versus external. Well, I guess externally, people thought I was funny, enjoyed being around me, and ironically, I built a sense of humor because of this. I used humor as deflection to not be seen, so I was scared to be seen, and so it is a beautiful. This is a beautiful dynamic of like good comes from bad. Like I, in my opinion, built a fantastic sense of humor indirectly because I used it as a coping mechanism.
Yeah, and I was also, if you can make people laugh, you kind of make people feel good. So I guess they're less likely to, attack you, I guess, for in that respect. So it's a very interesting defense mechanism to stop, to get them on your side, I guess, by making them laugh.
Yeah, so I definitely did. I was a class clown guy, like no one, and then I would never be real, and I'd over class clown it, and then people wouldn't take me seriously, and then I would, like, oh, I want to be taken seriously, but I like making people laugh. I just like making people feel good. I just always kind of felt good cheering people up.
Yeah, so from kind of like thinking about that, then if you were doing the class clown action and all that kind of stuff, did you enjoy learning? Was it hard to learn with all this happening for you, or have you? Yeah, how was that dynamic?
Um, it was hard. Yeah, it was hard. I was on fight or flight consistently because I didn't know at any time who's going to try to, you know, displace their anger out on me. And that's another thing I learned about recently, but late years later about displacement. Like when someone's mean to you or not treating you right, and you didn't do anything wrong, it has nothing to do with you. And whoever's listening, if someone's mean to you and you haven't done anything you deserve, it has nothing to do with you. They're upset with someone else, they're upset with themselves, and they're just trying to take it out where they can get away with taking it out on. So either defend yourself, ignore it because it has nothing to do with you. So that's really important. Like I once, when I was in math class, some girl kicked me in the shin as hard as she could, just so she can like tell the bully crew that she did that, and that put me on fight or flight. So stuff like that like gave me trauma. I never knew when someone's gonna take their stuff out on me. And a beautiful story was a win, maybe like a year or two later, not a year or two ago. I was at some bar and there's like that bully figure. Like I feel like that dynamic that life's gonna give you the same lesson until you learn it, right? uh, this guy at the bar, he would bully me. He put me down. Like we does anyone want a shot? He worked there. Does anyone want a shot? Except for Jeremy. He would just every time I'd go in, he would bully me, and I try to fight him with love, and it didn't work. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I was just people pleasing, and finally, I was like, the next time he does anything, I'm gonna defend myself, and it was so scary to me because there's also the dynamic of if I defend myself, if I say how I'm feeling, I'm gonna scare people off, and no one's gonna like me because I want to be liked. So there's like double-edged sword of like not sticking up for myself because I want to be liked, but I'm gonna like myself a lot more if I stick up for myself. So I actually bring in more people who actually deserve to be in my circle. And so yeah, he one time he hit me in the he like, good job, good to see you, Jeremy. And he hit me in the back really hard. And I was like, all right, I gotta do it. And my adrenaline was pumping. I walk right out to him, like, hey man, that is absolutely not okay. If you do that again, I'm gonna like do whatever it takes to stop because that's not okay. I was super firm, very serious. And he's like, oh, he just wasn't expecting it. He's like, oh, you let me finish. And I was calm. I'm like, go ahead. I just didn't say it. I was super calm, and I used that anger as like fuel. And it's something I like to talk about. Like anger, everyone's so scared of their anger, but I feel like my anger, if channeled correctly, can be used for very positive change. And just to kind of give a the reason I bring up the story is every single time I went to the bar after I stuck up for myself, he was so nice to me. He was never mean to me again.
It's interesting. It's kind of like predator prey, though, isn't it? If a predator knows that that prey isn't going to fight back, they'll just keep doing it because it makes them feel better for whatever reason they're going through. So you switched up the roles a little bit there. You put yourself on even footing. So there's a level of respect, then, isn't there? It's a level of respect between the two of you to a certain extent. Obviously, you need to be able to, obviously have a level of forgiveness for everything he's done up to that point, but it just shows if you actually call people out, you'd be surprised by the response. It's never maybe what it may seem. And I just want to touch on something you said there, which is quite interesting about expecting something to happen to you in school, like with the girl that kicked you in the shins. And when we talk about trauma on this show, we talk a lot about events that happen to us and how we carry that event with us in our body if we didn't respond in the way we needed to. But what you're talking about is really valid. That if you're already traumatized from previous experiences, but you're also awaiting more trauma. You're on the lookout for more. And that is, you're looking at triple, quadruple amounts of trauma then, because you're in a trauma state and in a trauma state at the same time. And I just want to pick up on that because it's a really important message that, it's not about just these big events. It can be developmental. It happens over time, especially if you're looking out for it. And I think, a lot of people can relate to that, that waiting for school to end. But at the end of school, you may get beaten up. So you're like, shit, I'm excited for school to end and get home, but I need to get home somehow without being seen. That is traumatic, isn't it? And that's my story. It always happened after school. So I was trying to get out of not hanging out with my mates, in inverted commas, because they just beat me up every time. So I had to find other ways of sneaking off home, leaving early, running out of the class. And that's no way to live, man, in a sort of feeling safe way. Which is tricky. And the story, the bar with this chap, is really powerful. And that ties into what we're going to talk about, which is how you felt these experiences followed you into your 20s and how that looked for you. So from a kind of career and job perspective, when you came out of school and stuff with your social anxiety and stuff, how was that for you? Were you able to kind of build a life for yourself?
Yeah, I've done a lot of. I was obsessed with loving myself just because I was so tired of hating myself for so many years. So I've done like 10-day silent meditation retreat. I've done really involved with like Mankind Project and doing a lot of transformational retreats in the forest. I live in Los Angeles, but when I was in Western Australia, I staffed a transformational retreat, and I've done like all sorts of facilitation trainings. And one of the things I did in junior college, I kind of started my self improvement journey, is I got involved in like the pickup community, which is like the pickup artists to help men with women. And there's most of the stuff I didn't like about it, like the routines and and the whole. There was a toxic dynamic of pickup. I was like, I didn't like it. But the thing I did pick up and I really liked about it, there's this one section of pickup artistry where it was about self improvement, and it was just about becoming 1% better every day. And I love that. So I kind of grabbed onto that nugget, threw away the rest, and just did social challenge after social challenge that scared me. Like I've done free hugs around the world. I've done. I did the gig where I interviewed celebrities just as a social challenge, and I mean, I still go through it, and my old stories do come back. Where, for example, when I did the Jeremy Talks to Strangers for a bit, just for fun, I ended up getting a feature on ABC 7, the news, and it was crazy because I was expecting it, but I was also in denial about it, and I got like they put me on their Instagram, and I got like 300 new followers overnight. That's not much, but like at the time it was like, whoa, it was kind of crazy. I never had that before. And I realized I had my old story kind of come back. I was like, I don't deserve to be seen. I'm an imposter. All those stories came up. I'm an imposter. I don't deserve to be seen. I'm scared. Let me go back into my cave. Like here, I had this amazing event happen where I'm getting featured. I'm getting all these new followers, and I did not like it. Like it made me. I didn't. It made me so uncomfortable. So I continuously go through that, and it's just, for me, it's like an opportunity to process. What I've learned a lot of the times is, or I've learned recently, is being triggered is a fantastic opportunity to process things I've been hiding under my like mental carpet almost, right?
Yeah, totally. And like you said, it's those beliefs and those stories that really trip you up over and over again. You're doing all this amazing stuff. You're high functioning. taking on challenges, having that spark for life, and these bloody beliefs come along and trip you up and just make you not enjoy it as much. You achieve all this stuff, you don't bloody enjoy it because you're just in this sort of, you know, warped circle story. You just keep going round and round and round and round. But I've got so much respect for you for doing all of those things regardless, because traditionally a story like yours would lead to a much darker timeline. You know what I mean? Of going into the wrong.
Could have.
So it's so powerful in what you're saying. And I just want to pick up something just light a second because I'm interested. You said you did was it a 10-day long retreat? Did you say silent retreat? Um, Knowing what your energy is like and how much you've got this awesome buzzy fight and flight energy with safe and social in there too, how did you find that? Because you're such a chatty chap. How was that? It must be quite transformational for you.
It was the most challenging experience of my life by far. So you go to this place. It's called Vipassana meditation. It's what the Buddha did, and you get to this place, and I am meditating close to 11 hours a day, no talking for 10 days straight. So you wake up at like 4:30 a.m. There's no cell phone, obviously. They take everything from you. So you're kind of on your own mission. And wake up at 4:30 a.m. You do your quick 2 hours in a row of meditating. That's like the quick one. And then you have like your breakfast, and you meditate, lunch, meditate, and then fruit. You don't even have dinner, and then meditate until 9 or 10 p.m. every day for 10 days straight. And it was the most challenging experience of my life. And the dynamic is just, I love, there's two levels, there's two ideas about it I really enjoyed. And that is to be so internally satisfied with yourself and life that you don't, I guess the goal, you don't need anything external to feel whole or feel satisfied. So I'm just being, not having to do anything to feel complete, not having to get anything, not have to accomplish anything. Like, I'm happy and content right now. I'm successful right now. Like, I don't need anything. And then on top of that, the second point I want to bring up is just being comfortable in the uncomfortable. Huge. And understanding how our brains work. And so, for example, when I talk about being comfortably uncomfortable, one of the things they do is they have you like go to those places that are super traumatizing and quote unquote negative, and just really, how like we have this, I think as human beings, I have this tendency to always want to be happy because happiness feels good, and being sad and angry does not. So it's sitting with the anger and the sadness and all the uncomfortable feelings and just not reacting, but being okay with it. Like, just hang out. What's up, sadness and anger? Just hang out with me. Let's go. Like, not reacting, not letting it affect you, like not being scared of it. And that's the only way to really process it, because it'll, in my experience, it'll show its head in other aspects of your life, subconsciously, and you won't even realize it. So like, you might take out your anger from something years and years ago on someone who you love, and doesn't deserve that. So there's one example. I was doing like a nature walk after my quick 2 hour meditation, and I was in a t-shirt and it was freezing. It was so cold, and my brain said, it's cold, it's cold, it's cold. And this is like I was like so excited. That was a perfect opportunity to test this theory. So then I said, I just created a positive relationship. Oh, thank you so much for trying to keep me safe, but I'm gonna just like, so I see you, I love you. I'm just gonna ignore you over and over again. But I'm gonna see you. You're not gonna like run away from you. I'm not gonna run away from the coldness and like, because it's not like, literally, that coldness is not gonna do actual damage. So it's all in my head. So finally, I ignored it, and eventually, I wasn't cold at all. And that's when I was like, whoa, this is awesome.
That's amazing, man. And my partner's a mindfulness teacher, and she does week-long retreats and stuff in the UK. So she goes off for a week. I'm just cracking on my life. I pick her up. She's like a completely reformed woman when she gets back in the car, and she's like, "Oh, you should come next time." And I'm like, so I have to really get myself into a place of just going for it and stop thinking it's some big thing. And hearing those stories makes me like, "Oh, holy shit, 11 hours a day." But I like to think of it like, when she tells me the stories, it's like a combination of stillness, silence, and senses. So to really be still, to enjoy silence. People really don't like quiet a lot of the time. They like to fill time with noise and activity. So still silence, and then the senses, sensing, like you said, sense into your emotions, your body, your thoughts, sense into it all. Let it be, let it stay there, and just feel everything. You can't really do that in real life because it's so easy to have a quick scan on your phone or to ring someone or to do whatever. And I think if all of us had the opportunity to have that kind of week, as tough as it could be really, really powerful, couldn't it? To set new daily practices, I guess. When you come back, have you managed to keep a daily practice of any sort after doing that experience?
Um, well, to keep it going, like the maintenance of it is an hour in the morning and then an hour later on. And I could, in theory, do that, but it's just so 2 hours in a day is a lot for me. It's a story I'm telling myself. So the compromise is I'm actually on and off I do transcendental meditation, and that's mantra based. So I'll do a 20-minute mantra based meditation, and then right after I'll do my gratitude journal.
Yes,
So
it's quite nice to tag things together like that, isn't it? So it has a kind of a flow to it as well. You know, I'm kind of I do different. I try different things out to try and figure out what my whatever the thing is that's stopping me doing it. How can I'm like, how can I create something which I'll definitely do? But that's just creating structure. It's not useful. It just needs to be what it needs to be. But hey, we're a goal orientated race right now, aren't we? You know.
well, here's something I can offer for you. You know how we have to-do lists. Do you ever make a to-don't list?
I have a habit of going, Owen, you can have 60 minutes rest, go, which isn't helpful. It needs to just be a day of mostly resting, not 160 seconds. Go on then. It's kind of like what you're saying, but it really isn't functional, I don't think. Kind of partly works. But I do meditate every day. So at the end of the day, even if it's 3 minutes, half an hour, that's a win for me. That's brilliant. And it does certainly help my nervous system. So that's all I can ask myself. But nature walks for me. I like to go for, hour and a half walks by myself in silence, no music or anything. I find that really, really beautiful. So maybe that's my thing. Go with that.
Yeah, like I got really into cycling at one point. I do sometimes now. I'm not as passionate as I used to be, but I would try to listen to music during rides, and I realized I enjoyed it just without music, just being
Yeah,
turning
I
my
think after a while you get comfortable, a bit more comfortable with silence. And sometimes like, actually, you know what? I don't want any noise. So my partner's like, in the 4 years she's known me, I say that and she goes, what? You like silence? So she's seeing that change in me too, which is pretty cool. Which is amazing. So you mentioned how you went into the world and you've done all that amazing stuff on yourself and also for social change, which is absolutely awesome. So that obviously, I guess, has helped you, doing your reps has helped you with your social anxiety stuff. Did you ever get support in any way, any therapy along the way or medication, or did you just rock it out with personal development?
um yeah, I've seen a therapy. I think I've seen a therapist on and off. I've had a few sessions recently, but not like ongoing. Um, and I mean, I think a lot of people have like said negative things about therapy, which is like ridiculous. There is going to be just like bad therapist, or not bad therapist, just someone who is not good for them, is not the right fit, perhaps. So just because it's almost like a judgment. Just because you have a bad experience with one therapist doesn't mean they're all like that. I think therapy is amazing, and I really realized how awesome therapy was. And I think it was college. I had just broken up with a girl, and I was like in a really awful mood. And then I found out that my college offers free therapy as part of paying for the school, and I was like, free, might as well. And in my head, I'm thinking it's not gonna work. I was like, it's free, might as well. So I went, and wow, I felt so much better after, so much more optimistic. It felt like it, it felt like the gym for my brain. So I don't understand this. I do, but I don't. I really wish therapy was just celebrated. Or if, say, for example, in a perfect world, I said, "Hey, Owen, I went to therapy yesterday." Like, really, dude? You're a badass, right? Just like get a lot of props and just like praise for going to therapy, as opposed to, "Hey, I went to my therapist." I feel like in our society, right away, it's like, "You went to a therapist? What's wrong with you?" And like as soon as you go to a therapist, that's when something's going wrong. And it ties into this idea that I think a previous podcast guest talked about. And she said that the people growing up who were going through a struggle, going through something, were actually the bravest, most depthy, powerful people because they chose to go head on with their stuff as opposed to ignoring it.
It's a massive sign of bravery, really. And, you know, we all know it's not easy going through these healing journeys, but me and my partner talk a lot about people that have that little spark about them. There's that little bit of them that wants a better life, a little bit of them that doesn't want these stories or is aware they can feel better. And that's the driver. But as a human race, we want to be seen, heard, understood, accepted. It's just a human need, whether we want to admit it or not. That's kind of how we're built. And safety is the other one. We need to feel safe. If we've got any to learn, you need to feel safe. To be able to heal, you need to feel safe through therapeutic relationship or normal relationships or whatever it is, to be seen, heard, and respected and not judged. That's what we all need. And that might not happen inside a therapy setting. It might happen in a therapy setting. But like you said, there's a place for therapy. But I think relating to what you're receiving is important. But don't, if you're going to look for therapy, don't base it on what you were told to do or this therapy is great for anxiety or depression. Check people out, check out websites. Maybe there's videos of them on Instagram. Get a sense of what the therapist is like. They seem relatable. They seem really nice. They've got really good energy, good posture, or whatever, and go for it, because sometimes it's not even about what the therapy is. It's about what you're going to gain from the therapeutic relationship. And I've always been a big advocate for that. So, you know, what you're saying there kind of backs that up.
Yeah, I also think like kind of piggyback what you said is um, you have to be open. That's what it comes down to. And that's something I kind of have been challenged with in the past as I see opportunity for someone to grow, but if they're not open to it, it's useless. It's like trying to play tennis with a wall. You're just not. It's not going to work no matter how good your advice is. And I can go on and on about therapy and just how toxic giving advice is, as opposed to just kind of how can I support you? Are you? And if I have something to like offer, ask permission. Are you open to some feedback? And if they say no, you don't take offense. They're just not in that space.
Yeah, totally. And you said some people are happy just to carry on as they are, and that's okay too. You know, if you can see they're using coping mechanisms or whatever, they need to come to that decision themselves. All you can do is say, "I'm here for you, ma'am. You know, if you ever need me, just give me a shout." That's it. And then they know that you're there for them. And that's happened time and time again for me, man. Like a year later, when they're ready, they're like, "Shit, man, I've had such a shit time." And I remember you telling me all those years ago, you know, to reach out. And it's really lovely when they do it when the time is right. It's so important. That's a perfect example of a safe relationship. It's not forced. It's not trying to change them or anything. So no, you're spot on.
Yeah, I see this all the time. They're like, you need to break up with him. I'm like, whoa, whoa. You need to break up with her. You're not happy. Like, whoa, projection, projection. Like, ask them, like, are you happy in this relationship? Not going with your own motives. Like, no, I'm not. What's keeping you in front? If you're not happy, what's keeping you there? Not you should break up with him. That's another thing I like to bring up. I don't know. We talked about so many things on the podcast. I can go on and on.
Yeah, where people think the thing is, people think they're doing something good by helping you. They're like they want to save you. So like you need to stop doing this and you'll be better. They want to save. It's coming from a kind of good place, but it's the language is all wrong. It's not communicated properly. So it's hard when you know they're trying to do good. But I see other friends doing it to other friends. But it's not my place.
Oh yeah,
It's not my place to butt in. So I just have to be there for the person they're trying to help. And don't be a saver. We're not here to save them.
I see it. Oh, I see it so much. And people try to just like, you should do this. You should do this. Ooh, shitting on all over them. That's all I like to say. So you should
Make them
do
feel
this.
worse.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah, it makes me feel worse.
yeah, it's not ideal, but you know that we're humans. We're complicated. I've learned that from years of being in my line of work. But I just love people. I think they're fascinating, no matter what they're going through. Be compassionate, empathetic, and just like show them some love, man, because that's what they really, really need and really want. I think it's a nice bit of love. So, with everything you sort of the work that you're involved in, and with the podcast and everything else, like, what do you think is the key? Do you think now for the next generation to not be where I've been, where you've been? You know, what do you think the future is for kids? Do you think we're getting somewhere, or do you think there's a hell of a lot more work to do?
I think both. I think there's still a lot more work to go. And I also believe that There's progress has been made. I think that the mental health um, system in America has gotten better. Like it is, I think vulnerability and being real and authentic is kind of making a big movement here, but it's still a lot of work. Like I can't, I can't wait for that perfect world where it's like, dude, I went to therapy 3 times this week. Nice, like almost like I went to the gym 3 times this week. I wish therapy and like going to the gym or whatever has the same like love, like props.
Yeah, well, it's people talk about this kind of thing before. Like we're so obsessed, aren't we, about looking after ourselves physically, aren't we? We're like, got to eat the right foods, got to do this. The healthy eating craze is huge, and everyone respects it because that's cool, man, that's cool. But like you said, that's so weird that when someone wants to grow as a person, and make better decisions for themselves, we're like, oh, okay, like, right, shit. I feel a bit awkward now, mate. I might just gonna go. You're gonna talk to me about your feelings or something? No, I think I'll shoot off. So it's interesting, isn't it, that like we've got it all a bit out of whack, really. Even the word mental health seems to freak people out, doesn't it?
Mm.
Still. But I have to say, since I was in school, it is a lot better, especially in the UK. We're getting somewhere, and I guess I'm going to find out now when I move into my new career. But it's I just wish that the resources that we have as adults could also be available to the kids. So I know in America, because we don't really have that here. Is the counselors in school thing kind of across the board, across all states? Is that still happening? That they have on-site counselors and stuff?
In my experience, yes, but I'm not sure about all schools.
Yeah, because over here we don't have anything like that. They have pastoral staff, but there's no form of in the building support or anything like that, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. We have outside people that come in, but not very often.
To my knowledge, we have like one per school, I believe. That's from my knowledge. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just find it interesting how different countries do different stuff. And I think probably the States is a little bit more progressive than we are, which is really exciting. And in many tarot readings that I've had, I'm not that I'm into it, I just find it interesting. They keep telling me that they see me in America. Don't know why. So we'll see what that's all about, I'm sure, in the
See
future.
you soon.
So maybe it's some kind of Man Cove US or something. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So the next question, you've actually kind of talked a lot more about social ninjas, but for you in this moment today and everything you're going through, obviously you've got your meditation practice, you've got your personal development. So for going forward with your future, do you think, I know we're kind of always growing, do you see more personal growth for you? Do you think there's more things that you can do to bring you some more peace, do you think?
Wow, that's a good question. I think so right now I'm currently doing a challenge of talking to a human being in every single U.S. state in every single country in the world. I think I've gone through like 30 different calls so far, video chats, Zooms. That's just one social challenge that I'm doing. But I feel like I just started. Like there's a balance of like I need to do this, this, and this. Like I really want to write a book on my experience. I really want to give speeches worldwide. I do coaching as well, I'm a mental conditioning coach, and I do help people like restructure their stories and go from like social anxiety to being very confident to like hating themselves to self-loving, um, and and then the podcast we're talking with potential sponsors and mental health organizations to kind of work with each other, and that's uncomfortable, very uncomfortable for me. It's all new grounds, and I feel like I'm always going to have challenges, and that if I choose the right path towards my mission of like being a powerhouse of self-love and authentic human connection, that my challenges will just upgrade. They'll always be there, but they'll just upgrade.
Well, it's just so amazing what you're doing and where you've come from, really, especially in a household too, obviously with your brother autism too, and all the experiences you've had along the way. So, what would be, do you think, is you're like, if someone's listening to this right now and they've had the same kind of childhood experiences that me had, what would be your advice to them going forward? Because clearly you found your way to build yourself up and create a life for yourself. So, what would be your message to people who are quite lost and stuck right now?
Your internal voice is not it's not the truth a lot of the times, especially if it's negative. I have many, but like the big one is um, any negative thought about yourself is not set in stone. It's just a story. And on top of that, to realize that that negative voice has a very positive intention, Like, so for example, if I say to myself, I have no value, I don't love myself, all those negative things, a lot of the times my first reaction is to like, go away, leave me alone. And it only makes it worse. It only tries to get my attention more because deep down, that negative message, as horrible as it is, what it wants from me is peace. Because if I'm feeling terrible about myself, I'm not putting myself out there. So, like, kind of from a caveman, cavewoman perspective, I'm safe. So it's a very positive, it's trying to, for a very positive thing. And I'm getting angry at it. So, learn to love that part of yourself even more. Like, thank you so much for trying to keep me safe. But I want you, you change the way in which you're trying to keep me safe because it's making my life very challenging. Another thing is be so kind to yourself along the way. Because I'm talking from my own perspective. I was so hard and still am very hard on myself. I've gone better. Just go as easy as you can on yourself. Forgive yourself as quickly as possible, and apologize to yourself. Like, treat yourself as you treat a best friend you really want to like you, or the girl who you really want to like, or guy, whatever. Treat yourself like that, like you're really trying to impress them. One of those beautiful cathartic experiences that I did is I was really mean to myself because I let myself get away with being mean to myself, kind of a inception. But I remember one time I was so mean to myself, and I forced myself to be like, "Hey, Jeremy, sorry I was so mean to you earlier. I'm just having a really challenging time. You don't deserve that. I'm so sorry." I did that, and I felt like goosebumps. So forgive yourself. Treat like real. So that'd be my some of my stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I like that you touched on that. We talked about that on an episode I did with some guys today about how your body, your mind, everything, your whole being is always kind of there to look after you on some level. That's the whole point of fight and flight. It's there to look after you. If there's danger, it makes you run away. If you shut down and you sort of close off and dissociate, that's there to save you too. That's there to stop you from, near threat death. That's everything it's doing is it's trying to help you, and it's just remembering that your body is there for you if you want to connect to it and listen to it and take its messages and feed it, positive whatever words, food, exercise, movement, whatever it is. And it's just remembering that, like, you get an illness, it tries to fight it off. You get cancer, and that is your body, in a state of serious problems there, but your body will on some level try and fight it off, even if it doesn't succeed. And it's just remembering that, we've got ourselves, and ourselves is pretty damn powerful. And, time and time again, they talk about that cheesy line, would you talk to your friend like that? We've heard that cheesy line, but
So
I like
much,
to
yeah.
kind of switch it slightly and just think about it as in, what are your values? It's so hard. For so long, mate, I didn't know what my values were because I didn't have any self-respect. And I was such a people pleaser that I lost any form of values. I didn't know why I was doing anything, what meant anything to me. So I was trying to convince myself. And when you start to really deep down dive in and go, what do I really care about though? What really sets me on fire? What makes me passionate? Build off those values, and then your language tends to change over time anyway, and your thoughts change and your stories shift and change. Because if you're
Yes.
aligned with your values, you can really start to build a community that respects you. But without values, you're not going to value yourself anyway. So, you know, that kind of ties in.
It ties in. It just ties into. I think that where we're not taught as becoming adults is like, what is our why? How do we want to show up in the world? And like for me, my why obviously is to help people love themselves and connect with others. And like just knowing your why, like through what, like how do you want to do that? Through leading by example for me personally. And then once I know that, decision making is easy because I'm like, all right, is this decision within my values or my why, I should say? Yes, done. Decision made. So, like, for example, when I did that challenge to talk to someone in every place in the world, I'm like, why am I doing this? What's the point? Is it within my mission? Yes, it is. Done. Decision made.
Totally. You can break through the why. Sometimes your actual why that you think is the why, you're like, but is it that? Then you go down a layer and you go, yes, that's definitely a deep value. So we get a bit stuck in our whys sometimes, trying to convince ourselves. But I love that. People say to me, "Why are you doing like Man Cove's so time consuming? Why are you doing it?" Blah blah. I said because this is what I wanted.
Hit him. Hit
This
them
is
with
what I
your
want
why.
to do. I love it. I love making change. I love giving other people a voice. That's from school. Yeah,
It's right there. That's all I got to
yeah,
say.
exactly.
Start with that. I love giving other people a voice. That's all you
Yeah.
got to say.
And, when I came out of my bullying into sixth form, I'm not sure what sixth form would be for you. So that's 16 to 18. Would that be college, I guess? I set up an anti-bullying club for the younger kids and stuff. So straight after all my bullying and still being traumatized, I set up an anti-bullying club because I wanted to give a space for those kids. So I've been doing that ever since then. So why would I not be doing something like this? It's the same thing. So, give them space, give them
Beautiful.
a voice, which is amazing. So this has been amazing, man. And I always feel bad if people didn't get to say something and they go, "Oh, damn it, I should have said it." So is there any other insights you feel you need to share before we wrap up
Um,
today?
yeah, this is one thing I learned recently from this book I'm reading. Is like I talked about not letting, uh, internal stories define you. And a really good technique that's worked for me is like if I say I have no value, I'll separate myself from that story and say I have the thought that I have no value, and I can separate myself even more. So I notice I have the thought that I'm have no value, and that like your stories don't define you. You can do a lot more than you believe you can, and yeah, as long as you're being authentic, you're never failing.
I love that. I've heard that many a time, and it is a brilliant example of being what I think also a compassionate observer of your experience. You don't have to be just in your experience. You can just be compassionately observing it. You don't have to be in it. And I think that's the power of meditation for me. Just observe.
And also like the trauma, like seeing the trauma and this challenges you've been through as a positive thing. That's a really big one for me. Like if I didn't go through what I went through, you and I would never have connected. Wouldn't have happened. I would not have amazing people in my life. Wouldn't have. I wouldn't be as strong. I wouldn't have gone through the battles. So on my podcast, we had this TEDx speaker, and she talks about, feeling your emotions, and I don't want to get too far into it, but she's been working in the bullying, field for over 15 years, and I haven't really told anyone this, but we're working on having her be the mediator between me and my main bully, and we're going to record it.
Wow, that's going to be powerful. And I presume if the bully's up for talking about it, then that shows how much they've grown, I guess, already.
He has. I'm excited for that, just because like to get into on the underneath of why he treated me like that. Because I feel like in our society there's a huge bullying problem, and we always get to the person who's being bullied is, oh, you poor thing, but like what about the bully? What are they going through? What caused them to do that? Like that's when the changes is going to happen. Like, oh, I'm so sorry you're bullying someone else because you're so unhappy. What's going on? That is that layer underneath that needs to get some more love, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And there's this big thing in society that we've always had, which is good and evil, good and bad people, good people, rather than seeing it as in what's happened to all of these people and how has that shaped them to who they are. We get so obsessed with good and evil, and it's just not
Yes,
helpful because
my friends get so mad. Sorry to cut you off. I just got so funny. Like, this person did this, this, and this, and they're complaining. Like, oh, my first reaction always like, oh, I wonder what they're going through.
and people are like, "What do you mean? They're a
Supposed to
bastard.
be on
What
my
are you on
side.
about?" It's so silly, isn't it? I try to be a sort of empathic, compassionate observer of other people's stuff too. So just you can look at them if they've got really dodgy posture, they can't look you in the eye, even stuff like low tone in voice. All of this stuff is an example of someone who is traumatized and struggling, or in fight and flight, or in shutdown. You can tell if you do enough work on it. You can see when someone is struggling behind their behavior, and then you can go, I'm going to remove myself from this situation because I can see they're struggling, so I'll protect myself because that's really important, and I'll go over here, self-respect, self-values, boundaries, and hopefully they'll get the help that they need. But obviously in school that's very difficult because you are trapped in classes, and I'm talking more adults here. If you can remove yourself, then that's kind of the main thing. But I'm sure we could talk all day about how society has
I
got it
go.
wrong, which they have. But that's the whole point of our stuff, isn't it? It's the point of our podcasts, our movements, and everything else. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on, mate. I've absolutely loved this,
Thank you so much for having me.
which is awesome. Yeah, no problem. I'm just going to do a quick shout out to my patrons a second, and then I'm going to find out what's next for you and just get the links to where people can find you too. So thank you everybody much for listening. I just want to do a big shout out for our patrons on Patreon. You are amazing. And we just got a brand new patron yesterday on our $7 package, Stella Stati, who was on my podcast. She's an expert in eating disorders. She is an amazing human being. So I want to thank Mike Morgan, Emerald McLeod, Maggie Palmer, Roland Chesters, Hannah Irvin, Karen Goodson, Julie Ferris, and of course, Stephen Truelove and Daryl Osborne, who are my co-hosts on my other podcast show. Thank you so much, guys. Honestly, it creates more time for me to edit and do what I love to do. So thank you. You can sign up to the Man Cove Wellbeing community at the description in the video description. I've done too many podcasts today. I'm losing it. Or visit www.patreon.com/MCW. You can also check out more about us at mancovewellbeing.com. Right, I'm back in the groove. So, my friend, what is the? I know we kind of touched on this already, but what's your plan for the future? What does life look like a year from now?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm hoping to. I keep going back and forth on it, but I want to continue. I want to continue spreading awareness for mental health. I want to continue holding space for people who have been bullied. I had a chat with the guy yesterday for my challenge. He was bullied, and he's telling his story, and I had tears coming down because that was my story. Um, yeah, and then I want to travel again. I want to make videos with people all around the world and just show that we're all the same deep down. And however I can do to like help people love themselves and connect with others and not feel so alone and isolated, would bring me joy.
Man, you are one good man. It's an honor to know you. Absolutely awesome. So where can we find you? Where's best to find you? Is Instagram your main place?
Yeah, I have my Instagram is Jeremy Talks to Strangers, and I do have the podcast. We have a website, the Social Ninjas Podcast.com. We have like all the episodes, and you can sign up to be a guest and all that stuff, and it's pretty amazing. And actually, one of our guests is a TEDx speech, and he's challenged us to go to Mount Everest, so we might go there in October.
Wow, I'm feeling a little documentary video coming on.
That's what we're planning. We're literally planning on doing like a really vulnerable, like I'm going through this and it's really hard, and make it about mental health awareness, but also like doing something that scares us. Because that's the idea that scares me. I hope it inspires other people.
That's the point, isn't it? It's just to inspire others to do. It doesn't even have to be that big. It could inspire others to do something a bit smaller, which is their Everest, which is kind of the point, isn't it?
Ooh, that's literally his line at the end. What's your Everest?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a cheesy guy at times.
I like cheese. I like cheese and crackers.
All right, thank you so much, my friend. I'll put links in the description for all of your stuff anyway, so people can come and check you out, and links to your podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We'll be back next time with Wellness Chit Chat. This was obviously episode 1 of series 3, and thank you, Jeremy, for being part of that. I do love a good opening and closing of a series, and you were the perfect guest for it. So that's absolutely awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. I'm not saying stay home anymore, because it seems like most countries are popping out now. So let's hope this COVID nightmare goes away and we can all enjoy our lives again and hug everybody. I just want to hug people. I can't at the moment. So thank you, everybody. Support your friends online, and we'll see you next time for some trauma chat. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.